No, okay, I think it might be clearer if I start by explaining a difference in two different types of international laws. Because most people, when they think of international law, they've heard of all these treaties. And there's two types. There's treaties, which are just agreements between countries. And everybody's heard of, the treaties have these lists of which countries have acceded to the treaty and accepted it or not, or accepted it with reservations. And so sometimes when you say, oh, there's a treaty or there's a UN convention, people say, okay, but which countries signed up for it? Well, it turns out there's a second kind of international law, which is when the UN General Assembly of countries has a majority vote, more than a two-thirds vote, and they enact a convention. It's not just one of these mere treaties. So there's just treaty where a handful of countries get together, and then they try to get some other countries to like it. That, by the way, with all the conspiracy theories about the UN being abused for bad purposes, that's how the UN is abused, is by treaties. You get some agenda faction of bad guys. They manipulate some politicians of some country, then they propose some voluntary treaty with lies and propaganda, fool of a handful of countries into thinking it sounds good, even though it's like Agenda 21 looks great, but a million loopholes for taking over everybody's rights. It's not the UN doing these things. The UN itself isn't marching around doing these things. You get a corrupt country by deception, fooling a few other countries to voluntarily sign this treaty, and then people can take it or leave it. So it's easy to defeat those things. Now, when the General Assembly as a whole, that's all of the nations of the world, about 192 or 193 member countries, almost all the countries in the world, get together and more than two-thirds of them vote on a convention, that is not optional. That is a law. That's the real international law. And under the UN Charter and its regulations, that is binding.